So let's just get into it. UFC Fight Night 114 this weekend in Mexico City, Mexico. Main event is Sergio Pettis against Brandon Moreno.
That is correct. And I've got the odds for that one in front of me right now. Moreno is minus 165. Pettis is plus 145. But what do you think?
I'm actually going with Pettis on this one.
All right. Why do you think it's going to be his fight?
I think he is getting better with each fight, and to go to Mexico and fight a Mexican fighter in the main event of a show, it's not exactly a pay-per-view, mind you, but it's still main eventing a show in Mexico City against a Mexican fighter. He's going to have a lot of added pressure on him, and I think I think Sergio Pettis can deal with that added pressure of fighting in the main event. And I think he's evolving as a fighter. And Moreno, I have this suspicion he's going to get caught with something. I don't know what, if it's going to be a submission or a knockout, but I think Moreno might walk into this and get overconfident for maybe a split second, and that split second is all it will take.
Well, here's the good news and the bad news if you're Brandon Moreno. The good news is he's been on one hell of a winning streak, dating all the way back to 2012. So let's see, that's 1, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. It's at least 11 fights in a row that he's won. But a lot of those fights were outside of UFC. We've only seen him in 3 UFC fights. So right now, the jury could still be out. He could be as good as he thinks he is or as good as the streak he's on. But Pettis is going to be the guy that's going to force him to prove it because, as you said, Pettis is an ever-evolving fighter. He's won 6 of his last 7, or 5 of his last 6, and the only significant loss was getting knocked out by Ryan Benoit. So, I'd like to think Pettis could win this, but I'm going to go with the hometown fighter in the hometown.
Okay. Let's move on to the co-main with Alexa Grasso against Randa Marcos.
That's also going to be one hell of a fight. We've got odds on that one, minus 155 for Grasso, plus 135 for Marcos, and I'd say play into the crowd again, but considering that Grasso is, like Moreno, from Mexico, I pretty much expect her to win this fight as well.
Marcos is a hell of an opponent, though. I mean, Grasso's going to have to bring her A game and really
step it up after the loss to Felice Herrig.
I was going to say stick to her game plan because you know she's going to game plan the shit out of this fight.
Of course.
Marcos, I'm not going to say house money here, Stevie, but I am going to say Marcos, I think, will surprise some people here. I think she might have to be a little bit unorthodox, but I have Grasso winning this fight by decision.
I will say Marcos is a lot better than her 7-4 record would indicate, so if I was going to place a bet, I would definitely do a parlay and put money on Pettis and Marcos.
Alright, what about Alan Jabouin against Nico Price?
Alright, in that fight we have odds of minus 155 for Japan, plus 135 for Price. We got a lot of close lines on this card.
Well, the reason that it's a close line is Nico Price is 10-0.
Technically 9-0-1.
Okay, 9-0-1.
Because he tested positive for marijuana.
Right, I forgot about the pop for marijuana.
Yes.
Joanne, I mean, I really like him as a fighter, and he's my pick to win this fight, but no, there is no but. Joanne wins this fight.
Alright. So, you think what happened with Gunnar Nelson was just a fluke then?
Yeah. I think Gunnar Nelson is, if you get caught, you get caught. Definite powerhouse in Nelson, and there's no shame in losing. But if you can learn from that fight and make yourself better from that loss, the price is wrong on this fight.
Oh, nice. I'm glad you worked in a pun. You deserve that.
What about, Bandini against Bravo?
I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know anything about Umberto Bandone, nor do I know anything about Martin Bravo, but Bravo is the favorite here at minus 310. Bandone is plus 255, but I'm going to have to do a little digging right here now live on the show and see what I can find out about these two men.
Well, as you said, Stevie, earlier on this card, it's hard not to pick against a hometown fighter, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to go with Bravo.
Well, Humberto Bandone is 13-4. He hails from Lima, Peru. He's never fought in UFC before, so this is his debut fight. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and he's won 4 fights by knockout and 6 by submission. So, pretty decent fighter. As for his opponents, let's see. Martin Bravo, undefeated at 11-0, hails from Mexico, as you noted. His nickname is Toro, which means bull, and he's got 4 knockouts and 5 submissions. So, yeah, I'm going with Bravo too.
All right, now this next fight here is Smiling Sam Alvey against this guy. I'm not sure if this name is said right. Is it Rashad Evans?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was done.
And he probably should be.
We talked about gatekeepers on the show earlier.
He is officially gatekeeper now. He's lost 5 of his last 7 fights. There's little more for Rashad Evans to do other than be a gatekeeper, because even going down to middleweight didn't work out for him. So what's he got left?
Okay, so he's giving up, a few inches of height. Alvey is, he's going into his 40th fight, so the experience level, he's going to a fight against a taller opponent who's been in more fights, and Rashad, yeah, it's sad to say gatekeeper here, because at one time he was one of the champs.
Yeah. And he was a strong champion when he was champ. It's not like he got there and was weak. He was definitely legit at that time.
Now, if Alvey wins convincingly here, what's to stop Rashad from jumping ship and going to Bellator?
I would think looking at the top of Bellator's middleweight and light heavyweight divisions would probably be what would stop him, because I don't think you're getting any further with those guys than you are with UFC's guys.
Well, there is one fight at Bellator that everyone would clamor to see.
And I'm going to assume you mean either with Phil Davis or Ryan Bader.
I was thinking Rampage.
Rampage at this point is basically a heavyweight, so I don't think a middleweight or a light heavyweight fight is going to happen between the two of them. There's no chance at a rematch there.
Okay. Now, who are you picking in this one? Are you actually going to go with Evans? Or are you going to
no. Smiling Sam. There's way more upside on Alvey than Evans at this point. The line being close is giving Evans some respect, and Alvey's coming in off a loss. But honestly, in my own mind, it's not even close.
Now, rounding up the main card, we have Alejandro Perez against Andre Sukumtath.
Yes, and Sukumtath, the line on him right now is minus 105. On Perez, it's minus 115. So you got your coin flip fight here.
This is tough for me. I'm going to go with Perez.
Well, Sukumtath's only loss in his last 4 fights was at UFC 209 by split decision. Perez, actually, I think he might be more on the upside here, because he's the bantamweight winner of Tough Latin America. But in his last fight, he went to a draw with Albert Morales. So, yeah, I can see why this is a coin flip fight. But just to be different, I'll go with Sukumtath, since it could go either way.
And you thought the prelims weren't going to have a few known fighters in here?
Did I say that? When did I say that?
I've heard people say that, but I'm going over this prelim card. Jack Hermanson, Bradley Scott, Dustin Ortiz, Hector Sandoval, Randy Yaya's on this card against Henry
Briones.
I mean, even Diego Rivas, 7-0, hell of a prospect fight there, and that's just the prelims on the FS1. You've even got 2 other fights on the Fight Pass ones that could steal the show when you've got 2 undefeated fighters as the main event on Fight Pass.
Oh, and just as a note, since you didn't already bring this up, There was supposed to be a featherweight fight on this show between Akron Diaz and Zabit Magomed-Shapirov, but Magomed-Shapirov got moved to a Nick Hein fight at UFC Fight Night Struve versus Volkov in Rotterdam, and Akron Diaz doesn't have a new opponent yet.
That's a tough person to pick a fight for, that's for sure. That's someone that's... you get a phone call late in the night. Yeah, we got this opponent for you in mind.
Yeah, Akron Diaz is a guy that you don't want to just take on short notice, that's for sure.
You better put a couple of extra zeros on my payday if I'm going to step in the cage on short notice against him.
Yeah, although some people might think he's vulnerable right now after losses to Cub Swanson and Andre Fili, but I think you also have to consider the caliber of the opponents that he fought and that he went to 3 rounds with both of them, so Akron Diaz ain't no pushover.
No, absolutely not, but basically that's the show from Mexico City, and this is the last UFC show before the Money Mayweather and McGregor fight, so